Thank you, James. I'd like to ask you to please rise, if you would. Our old people tell us that we're the family of two-legged, red, yellow, black, and white. We inhabit this bountiful and beautiful creation together with all our relations. DNA was finally proved right. Our old sayings that we're all related somehow says that the 5 basic building blocks for all life resides in each thing that lives, even to the stones. James is right about the stone people. Everything has a spirit. And in this good house that was blessed with the thought and the feeling of protection and a place of home to come to for sustenance and for life of the Spirit that pervades all things in the native world and is the basis of our society, our cultures, and our philosophy about a way of living. I was asked to give the invocation this morning. And when this longhouse was blessed, when the ground around it was blessed, it's all sacred. It was sacred before we ever put the first shovel in it. This place has been a place of song. When it was dedicated with song and then with prayers. And if you go to the longhouses here and amongst the other tribes who have that way, you'll hear song. So I want to offer a song today. Because the songs that we sing, many of them have vocables within the song to match as closely as possible a feeling that we might have so deep within that there are no words for that feeling. And so the song has the vocable that matches and comes close to the range of our languages so that we can put our feeling and our emotion and our thoughts and our prayers on the vibration of the song. So I'm going to offer this song. This is a prayer song to me. It was gifted to me by the Skagit Valley Singers from Skagit Valley, Washington. Harold Paul. Please join with me, each in your own way and within your own understanding, as we take just this small time to give thanks for the things that we have. Thank you. You may be seated. Well, howdy do today. How's everybody? Good, good. Glad to see you all here. I understand the sun is going to bless us here At least that's what they say. The sun, however, is shining. It's just behind the clouds a little bit. It's up there. I'm very pleased to be here today, and I want to thank James and the committee and Stan and all of the students here at Lane Community College, and for all of you that are here. When we come to the Longhouse and when we come to our Indian gatherings, it's often said that whoever is here is supposed to be here, and the reason that you're here. And so I hope that you can open your hearts and your minds, that as you listen, that you go beyond the step of listening to the step of hearing. We can listen real well. Hearing is what's between the lines of the listening. I was asked to speak on the military and industrialization on Native American lands, and I thought I would do that in a couple of different ways. Apparently I don't have to stand at the podium. I'm not much of a technology person. I'm still using smoke signals. So I appreciate the technical folks, and James is going to help me out here. I have just a few little things. These are so small printed. I wish that I could find a way technologically to shrink them down so that I could use them in handouts and give them, but unfortunately this is what we have. So I just wanted to kind of, this was Indian country. Indian country. Where we were quite busy. In our way of traveling around and occupying North America. We believe that we come here by the grace of the Creator. We have creation stories that place us here, our origin here. A lot of conflict in that land bridge theory. Land bridge most certainly exists. Most certainly exists. Ask the Eskimo people at Cape Prince of Wales. They'll tell you that the people came first from down this way and went across and went over there. And then they turned around and they came back. Long time later, and they went down that way. But we've been right here, always. Walrus put us right here. That's kind of how we all feel about it. Creator put us right here. But then we like to travel around. Hunters and gatherers. We've been termed hunters and gatherers. That's true. That's true. We hunted for game. We hunted for life. We gathered food. We had all of this beautiful, beautiful Mother Earth to live on. And then we got occupied. And this is what's left of Indian country. Usually on what was determined to be the most undesirable, barren, hot, unhospitable, low-watered, low-food places that could be possibly found to kind of get us out of the way. Indian country. But before we got occupied, we were very busy in the business of living. Those dirty, lazy Indians. Who gathered all of that food? Gathered all of that food. Who built all of these different kinds of homes? Industry? Absolutely. You're going to build a house, that's industrious. Is it not? Yes, it is. I'd like to borrow a little storytelling piece from our other brother, Brent, who's a traditional storyteller. He has a storytelling belt, and he uses a call and response method in his classrooms, and I use it as well. And it's wonderful because some of our speeches, Potawatomi, go a little bit long. And so our stories and our lessons in the Longhouse could actually maybe even put some kids to sleep. And so we knew it was time to put a knot in the storytelling belt and begin the next day. And the way that was done was that I would say, and the crowd, the audience, would answer back, nah. See how quick you picked that right up? So if there's just, and I say, and there's just one little tiny, in the back of the room, I know it's time for me to tie a knot in the belt and pick it up again tomorrow. So we'll use that call and response if that would work for everybody. Yeah. Okay, very good. And see, one thing about Indians that I've always appreciated, the fact is that we really like to eat. We like food really a lot. So we were very, very, very involved in the business of finding out what the plants were all about, even to making things colorful and beautiful and adorning ourselves with the things of nature that were beautiful and good for us and put there for our use in a respectful and reciprocal way. A way of understanding, a way of thankfulness, a way of respect. Thankfulness for that life that this plant was living over there, and respect that it was willing to give up its life for us to live. The same as the four-leggeds, the flyers, the swimmers. That relationship, that's called traditional natural law relationship. And there are two facets, two components of that traditional natural law relationship. Thankfulness and respect. And the statement that concerns that traditional natural law relationship, that everything has its place and deserves to be respected. Thank you. We did, however, from time to time, get sick. So most of the time, our ladies, the women, their time was spent in gathering foods, roots and berries. And in that process, they began to watch the natural process and the animals of the creation, particularly grizzly bear, black bear, the martens in the trees, otters, muskrats, those that ate the roots and the plants and lived a long time because of eating those specific plants. And so we went about the business of learning about medicines. 3/4 of the modern day pharmacopoeia of medicines used by the professions of medical practitioners come from North, South, and Central American Indians. 3/4. Busily engaged in the process of eating and living. We did, however, have military societies. We were industrious. We had militarism. We had games of strength and skill and coordination that were designed to strengthen us by having fun and by playing. But they were all components of the defense of the people. Big difference. Warrior comes when danger threatens. And you put on your warrior face and you pick up your warrior bundle and you go defend your people. When that's done, you take off that mask of that war paint. You wash it away and you ask for forgiveness if you had to take life during that conflict. And you put that bundle of war away and you tie it up and you put it over there. And you open up this other bundle of grandpa, dad, grandson, son, nephew, cousin. That bundle of your place in the circle that requires you to be a provider every day. That bundle of provider every day. All day, all the days of your life for your family. Danger threatens, you go to that war bundle. We didn't live in that war frame of mind every day. We lived in that survival, abundance, health and happiness, wellness. So we learned a lot about medicines and games and how to be human, how to have friends. And then somebody discovered that little beaver really looked good in a top hat. So Hudson's Bay, the American Fur Company, came to us and they established posts and outposts. Can you say occupy? All over. Was this their land? Was this before treaties? This was before treaties. So they just kind of moved in, occupied, as it were. We began to have some real discussions about that. And this is in the northern part. Put them both together. What kind of a picture have you got? Pretty thick, huh?
Full picture, not very full.
Full picture. This is industry, commerce, to fuel the factories of Europe. Not here, Europe. NAFTA. So then we began to have a little concern about that fact that, you guys just moving right in here. And we didn't have too much to say about it, apparently. And when we did have something to say about it, or if we had been trapped out, hunted out, no game, no fish, no nothing, our orchards burned, our gardens burned. 90% of the American Indian people were hunters and gatherers and a bit nomadic, but those are called seasonal rounds within their region and within their area. Most tribes had sedentary villages that they gathered for and stayed together in the wintertime. They had communal gardens. We're agriculturists more than anything else. And there's more and more scientific evidence to support our oral tradition that says so. The three sisters, corn, beans, squash, melons. Thank the people of the mid-desert area for watermelon, muskmelons, cantaloupes, corns, bean, and squash. Planted in a specific way at a specific time so that they complement each other. You go to the corn stalk, you get your corn, you pick your beans, you have your squash, and the squash leaves get great big and they grow and shade the ground, so you do very little weeding. Isn't that called agriculture, agronomy? Something like that? Where you actually utilize the seeds of the plant to continue its growth in the next time. And so we kind of got a little disturbed about the fact that we were starving to death in our own countries, in our own place of existence. And so we began to pick up that warrior way because we were threatened. The enemy was coming because they had gone from this to this. And it became a sickness. This. We've named it greed. Too much. Wanting. And so when we fought back, militarism came to us. These are the forts in the United States fort system. Military posts and their camps. Look at that. Where did we even have a chance to breathe? And it was done in a very specific manner. Very specific. They'd move in the trappers a little bit and a few settlers. The Indians would fight back. The settlers needed to be protected. And so they brought the army. And the army built a fort or built a camp. And they established a place. And then they wrote treaties and said, you're ceding this so much land for us so that we can all live together. But we're going to put you over here on this little piece right here. And you stay there. And make sure that if you leave, you have permission from the superintendent, and be darn sure you got your pedigree papers in your pocket. Your pedigree papers in your pocket. Military occupation. Militarism. That resulted in wars. I've heard it say we've never had a major war other than the Civil War in the United States. I beg to differ with you. My people of the eastern woodlands that I'm from were prominent in the development of this nation. Prominent peoples. The Potawatomi were some of the main negotiators during the French and Indian Wars. Were were some of the main allies of both the French and then later the English. We got very confused. War. PTSD. Known to us as post-colonial stress disorder. Post-traumatic culture shock syndrome. These are now identified mental and emotional illnesses listed in the DSM, Diagnostic Manual for Mental and Healthcare Workers. Diagnosed. That's what's happened to us. And then because we didn't have much say in anything, treaties were written that established land bases for utilization by people other than ourselves. That's all of those, James. Thank you. And we began to worry and wonder about our last little piece of home, our little reservations that became our treasure troves, became the place of our repositories of our professor emeritus, our elders, our tradition keepers, our spiritual leaders. And we safeguarded as much as we could and protected as much as we could. But then the boarding school system came. And they came and they took our children without asking us from the time that they were about 8 until they had graduated from high school. Both of our mothers were boarding school women. My mother was in boarding school for 7 years in Oklahoma. My aunties were there for 12 years in Oklahoma. The only difference was that my grandfather worked and paid for their room and board. They weren't conscripted. They were very fortunate because he'd been to boarding school and learned how to become a carpenter. A really, really good one. And then people decided that, well, those kind of rough-looking places, those kind of places without much game, without much water, kind of dry, kind of isolated, maybe rocky and stuff. What do you know? There's gold and uranium there. There's oil. Darn. We thought we were giving them the junk land and we gave them the best. How'd that happen? How'd that happen? I don't know. Maybe the Great Spirit took pity on us and said, you're going to have to live like this for a period of time, but there will indeed come a time of change. We are in the midst and close to the end of that time of change. The Mayan people sent out a communique just recently. Spiritual leader of the Mayan people interviewed 600 Mayan elders about the end of the Mayan calendar. And in that communique, it says, please understand that there's not just one calendar. And thank you to the anthropologists and archaeologists who came to study us and came to read our language and think that they know what it says. You're wrong. There are 14 Mayan calendars. And indeed, this one does end on December 21st. Somebody said they ran out of room and had to get a new rock, but I don't think that's it. The elder says it's a transformation from the 4th level to the 5th level of consciousness, from the 9th hell to the 7th heaven, an evolvement in a way of living. I think it very much has to do with water. That's my belief. And look at all of the things. We hold the future of the world in our hands. The Creator's hands hold the earth and the universe and the stars, the sun and the moon. That's our way of understanding. But look at how many of these places that I chose. All of these slides are on Indian land. Remember that first one? Indian land. Because we're still here. We're not in a museum someplace. We're not completely wiped out. Damaged pretty hard. Took some pretty heavy hits. But we're still here. We're still alive. We're still kicking. And we're still here about our Mother Earth. And look at what is done to her. Is this holding her in the sacred regard that's illuminated in the hands in the blue light of spirit? Do we care for her in that way? Militarism and industrialization create damage if not done appropriately. And how are you going to put this? They say they do these strip mines and these big open pit mines. Well, we're going to put it back the way it was when we're done. Right. I don't think you have a big enough hand to put it back. You can't match the Creator's hand. How are you going to put that last little ridge in there that finally kicks those clouds up to where they catch that jet stream that takes them to the interior? How many of you have been to the coast on a rainy day and it's sunny and shiny over here, and by the time you drove back, the storm followed you right over here? That doesn't just happen because there's a plan there. The land is designed to make things move. She changes. It's up to her. Is this caregiving? Is this nurturing? Is this respectful? Is this filled with thankfulness? I don't think so. And again, this is just my opinion as an older Indian guy, having been watching this all my life. I'm from the Eastern Woodlands, but I'm a third-generation Oregonian on my dad's side. I watched a lot of changes come to Southern Oregon. I watched it change from that little tiny mill town and some of the best pears in the world, and then Interstate 5 came. Everything changed when Interstate 5 came. It all changed. Clear cutting became more prominent. How many of you can walk into a clear cut and feel good about it? I understand the need for logging. I come from logging people. My dad was a Caterpillar mechanic for 32 years. All the rest of my family are ranchers. I was trained to be a heavy equipment operator. And I got hurt on a motorcycle and I couldn't do that anymore. So I said, go back to school. So I went to Road Community College. Got my start at a community college. And made it. First one in my family passed the 8th grade. My mom only made it to the 8th grade in that boarding school. Actually, 7th grade in that boarding school. And she finished in Redwood City, California, her 8th grade education. She was so proud of that 8th grade graduation certificate. So proud of that. Oil sand mining, it's continuing, it's happening right now. The people in the states of North Dakota, South Dakota, really concerned about what's happening across the border in Canada. This oil sand mining and a pipeline designed to come through right through their reservation that doesn't have a thing to do with them. There's a gas pipeline here in Oregon, supposed to go right through some of the most pristine, uncut places that we have left. Does the state of Oregon benefit from that pipeline? No. Japan benefits from that pipeline. And Southern California. Perhaps, as I fly around, I've traveled around, when I fly out of Los Angeles, and I look down, and there are parking lots as big as this entire campus, with lights ringing it all the way around, a security fence all the way around it, and all of these lines painted inside there, and there's not one car in there. There's nothing in there. Nothing. And all the lights are burning. You can see them for miles and miles and miles and miles. Why doesn't somebody just turn the switch off? Turn out the light in the bathroom. Why can't we do some of those things? What keeps us from doing that? What keeps us from turning our minds and our heads away from what's happening? How are they going to put that back? Right now there's a bill to abrogate the water rights of the Navajo and the Hopi so that Peabody Oil Company or coal company can have the exclusive rights to their water to slurry their coal to the power plant that creates electricity that's sold to Southern California. Somehow I don't see the equity in that. abrogate their water rights, the Navajo and the Hopi. The oldest existing communities in North America are the Hopi. What are we doing? They would have no legal right, no legal backup to challenge in a court of law any future contamination that this coal slurring might bring. Can we all say or think groundwater contamination? And so you're drinking that, and they have no legal right? That smacks pretty loud of the 1800s when we were considered to be animals and didn't have the right to access a court of law because we were not recognized as human beings. Thank you to Standing Bearer of the Ponca, who established us as human beings in federal court so that we could be represented. That's a truth. He had to go and prove himself a human being. We're finding now archaeological and anthropological data is showing us that there are places where Indian people have lived, survived, and thrived for over 20,000 years. We got a 14,000-year-old pair of moccasins. Actually, there's about 25 pairs of those moccasins. They're made from sagebrush. 14,000 years old? Nike better be taking a look at that. How'd they last that long? Nuclear waste dump. Isn't that a beautiful sight? That one's kind of drab. Some of the other ones got really a lot of color, like the acid drainage. Well, beautiful colors. Too bad it's so toxic. How many of you would go right out right now with me and run over here to the Willamette River and have a big old drink out of the Willamette? Anybody? The McKenzie? Maybe way up there. Way up there. How about out of Dorena Lake? A big drink out of Dorena Lake out there? Any other water sources around close that we could, natural water sources we could run take a big drink out of? Abaton Creek, is it clean? You can drink out of it? So, the Northwest is scheduled for a massive earthquake at some point. I just saw it on the news the other night. Going to happen. So, earthquake comes. Mother Earth, she rids herself. There's a prophecy the Hopis give us that if we don't come to a like mind about the misuse of nuclear energy and the sacredness of water, that Mother Earth herself will send a big wind. She'll send water and rain and floods, trying to get the human beings' attention. If that doesn't work, she will shake her back to rid herself of the sickness that has afflicted her. And if that doesn't work, then she will send a fire from within and without to cleanse and purify, and it will be done. Are you hearing what they've been saying to us for the last 30 years, the Hopi people? Thomas Manyakya carried this message all over the world and to the United Nations. Can you see any visible vestige that it did any good? He impacted me, that gentleman. He impacted me to utilize this voice, this education, this training in the English language. I'm 62 years old and I'm just now learning my native language because it was taken away from us, it was beat out of us. And I love it. Isn't that a beautiful sight? What did that do to the ground underneath where we can't see? If those explosions are so powerful and so hot, what do they do to the ground, to the earth itself? You ever seen stone that's melted together from intense heat? It's called lava. What about the ground underneath? What always goes down? Water. And it goes downhill. Do we have a responsibility to those who live downstream from us? Yes. Do we also have a responsibility for those that live upstream from us to help them keep the water clean for us and those that live below us? I would think so. Huh? Oh, that was really limp. Huh? Makes me wonder whether you really believe that or not. How many of you believe that? Thank you. I want some fire in this room. I'm from the Potawatomi. We're fire builders, keepers of the sacred fire. I know most of you are activists. You already have a fire burning, or you wouldn't be here. You already sense that something's wrong, or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here trying to figure out what is it that we can do. How can we be respectful? How can we be thankful every day? You just do it. We're all living here together. My son's standing right back there. He has to deal with the future of this because it affects all of us. It doesn't leave those of us that try to live as traditionally as we can out of the equation. We're part of what's going to happen. It's going to happen to us as well. It has to be now that this change happens. Somehow, with the grace of the Almighty, this has to happen, or we're done. If that earthquake comes and I-5 gets broken, the airport buckles, all of the roads in and out of here and the railroad tracks, everything busted, all of the water supplies, the water treatment plants, all busted. Water dammed up, washed out the waste treatment plant, and everything's contaminated. And we can't drink the water? What's wrong with this picture? We're 90% water when we're born, us human beings. We're about 80% to 85% water in our growing years. When we begin to get a little longer in the tooth like James, then we're around 75% water. 75% water even when we're old. How many of you had a drink of water today? Did you tell it thank you? Now we're getting down to it. Simple thing. Be thankful for that good tasting clean water. It's the most powerful of all the medicines. It's more powerful than anything else. Water. If you don't believe that, go check out the Willamette at flood stage and tell it to stop. If you can do that, I really want to talk to you. Nuclear waste disposal sites. Do they dispose of it or do they just hide it? They hide it. Is it contained? How long what's the half-life of a steel drum? Maybe 150 years? What's the half-life of the radiation contained in those drums? Oh, oops. Oops, we don't have a container that lasts long enough to hold it. So what's happening to that stuff that was put underground at Hanford 50 years ago? That's right into the Columbia. So who would have a drink out of the Columbia? For him, this is the destruction of his life as an Indian person. His people are Wasco, the people of the Cup, from the Dalles on the Columbia River. The most significant trading spot in North America, Celilo Falls. Where is it? Can you see it? Can you feel it vibrate the earth for 5 miles away? Can you hear that roar of that water? Can you feel the intensity of that water? No, because it's behind a dam. Behind the dam. I live just about maybe an eighth of a mile above the site where they just took out Savage Rapids Dam a couple of years ago on the Rogue River. Yeah. 88 years I've been hearing about that dam. My mom and dad were young people when that dam was built. My mom just passed away in January. She was 94. I took her down there the day that they took the last piece out and the river at the Savage Rapids was running free. A few months later, I took her to shore the river running free at Gold Ray because both of those dams are gone now. So from the high mountains to the coast, the Rogue River runs free. And all of that affluent that they were worried about being behind the dams, oh, it's going to poison them fish. That's going to be terrible stuff. What was it doing just laying there? It was getting better as it was building up and getting deeper and deeper. It was healing itself. No, it was accumulating more and more and more. Parking lot runoff. Have you ever seen a chemical analysis of the runoff from a parking lot? My students in my native ecology class did that in the fall. They also extrapolated from one of the largest parking lots on campus how much rain falls in that parking lot and runs untreated right down the hill and right into Talent and right into Bear Creek and right down to Talent where they take their drinking water out of Bear Creek. 1.2 million gallons 1 year in runoff from one parking lot out of 36 parking lots on the campus. So some of you young mathematicians and scientists here at LCC, do one on one of the parking lots here. And then find out about bioswales and rain gardens. A very simple, effective, homegrown method to deal with the stuff that's in parking lot and street runoff before it goes back into the water system and into the groundwater. The use of plants and gravel to purify and clean water. What a concept. Plants and gravel, clean water? Huh. Clean water. How important is that? Well, we just talked about 75%, and we can't drink the water. How many of you know what to do to water to get it to be potable, to be drinkable? How many of you know how to do that? As a Boy Scout, this offends me deeply that you don't know this and affects me. You boil it. Used to be 3 minutes. Now my friends in the science community tell me it's 8 minutes, let it cool, 3 minutes, let it cool, 5 minutes, let it cool. That's a long time. Because some of the chemicals, as they heat and cool down, will dissipate. I had no idea.
But it doesn't take out heavy metals.
Pardon?
It doesn't take out heavy metals.
No, it doesn't take out heavy metals. So are we being totally effective? No. How come we have giardia? How many of you know what giardia is? Beaver fever. See? Everybody knows what that is. Make belly bad. Giardia used to be only in very, very relegated places. It wasn't a common occurrence on all running streams. But now it's found from British Columbia to California and all over the place. Nearly every stream has giardia in it. Beaver fever. Ostensibly from beaver scat. Well, I asked the beaver expert for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So I have a theory, and I'd just like to run it by you. She said, what's that? And I said, well, Oregon, you know, is the beaver state. And this place used to be just full of beavers. Everywhere. That's why they came here. That's why those Hudson Bay and American Fur Companies came here in 1828. Looking for beavers, because they knew they were here. We kill off all the beavers, there's no beaver ponds. Loggers come along and say, oh, I'm getting that damn beaver pond out of there. Rip, 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 tear it apart. So it's backing up, there's trees over there I need to get. And we'll get them out of there, and it'll drain right, and we'll have all that stuff running in there. Get them beavers out of there. And so then they have floods in the mountains, wash out roads and stuff. Then they hire somebody, an expert, to come in and make a beaver trap, beaver sieve. That's what they were called. It's an upside down culvert that had a grate on the top of it that they put in the bottom of drainage ditches that would ostensibly keep beavers out from building dams and stuff in there. Of course, the very first time that it rained, it washed all the brush and leaves and stuff that was in the drainage ditch down on top of the grate, backed up the grate and washed out the road. So it didn't really work very well. So we went back to the concept of what about beavers? Got no beavers anywhere. Got no beaver ponds. Well, when a beaver builds a pond, they have to eat, huh? Nah. All right. Everybody asleep? Gee. Wake up! Thank you. Beaver builds a pond, goes to get trees over there, cuts down the trees, drags them through the pond to the dam, to the beaver house, to the food cache. One after the other, after the other, after the other. And pretty soon, all there is a kind of a nice gravelly little trail through the pond, weeds. Flow through. Doesn't become stagnant, flows through. Comes in on this end, goes over the end of the dam on that end, builds a big pond. Still has a flow through. If it doesn't have a flow through, it gets stagnant. So where that beaver's dragging that wood through, it kind of clears all of that grass and stuff out, makes that gravel. What a salmon really, really, really like to spawn in. Gravel. Clean gravel that water runs through. And all of that big, beautiful green moss and grass that's going like this in that river, that's running right through that beaver pond or that stream, that creek that's running through there, what's that doing? Filtering. Naturally occurring filters within the pond. So it filters out the beaver scat, returns it to the earth, and it becomes a fertilizer. And if they get close to depleting their supply of food there, what do? They move over a little ways until this one has a chance to grow back. Where Indian people have lived 14 to 20,000 years, you think they developed a pretty, close, might we say intimate relationship with their land? Yeah, I'd think so. Otherwise, would they have made it 14,000 years? I doubt it. Part of my heading for my talk was the footfalls. How do our footfalls, where we place our feet, how do they affect the life that we step upon? That's a really old training for traditional dancers, traditional men dancers. That if you watch a dancer, you'll see them. They'll be dancing along and they'll be looking behind. Maybe a couple of steps, a couple of bounces, they'll look behind. See where their footsteps have been. Because when we dance, every step is to be a prayer. So that's what it's supposed to be. And so you're supposed to place your foot as gently on the earth as you can. That's why when you see really old traditional dancers, they're dancing pretty soft. They're stepping pretty light. It's them young bucks that get into that business. Because when you have old knees and old ankles and stuff, that doesn't work very well on them. But I also think that we've come to a deeper appreciation of what that dance circle means. That sacred place for us. That place that grew out of the oppression of Indian people and is reflective of our tribal dances. That's one thing we're looking at reestablishing along with our language are our tribal dances and ceremonies. And in so many places, those ceremonies, those dances require the ingestion or the immersion in the water source of our places where we live. So if I asked that same question on a reservation that was going to have a ceremony that required the immersion and the ingestion of water, how well would we do relative to the questions I just asked you about being able to drink the water? And if we're not able to do our ceremonies, like the return of the salmon ceremony, because the river has killed all of the salmon, then this man's people cease to exist because they are the salmon. And the salmon is them. And those ceremonies are required year after year after year after year to honor and show that respect and thankfulness to that salmon. There are people in Northern California tribes that do renewal of the earth ceremonies every year, even twice a year on the solstices. They have to go and ask permission of private landowners to go to their sacred rocks, their doctor rocks, and their sacred dancing places that have been there for thousands of years. They have to go and ask, almost beg those landowners to go there and have a simple ceremony Devil's Tower, Bear Butte, one of the most sacred sites in North America. And you have to go and ask permission to go on a vision quest there or to go up to the top of the mountain, except for 1 month out of the year for American Indians. It's the place where just outside of it, White Buffalo Calf Woman is said to have appeared and brought the tremendous teachings to the Lakota people about a way of living. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that a beautiful color? I just saw some dancers, grass dancers. Their outfit looked just like that when they turn. All that fringe and stuff fan way out, beautiful orange like that. When I saw that picture, I thought, whoa, maybe that young grass dancer was dancing for the earth, was dancing for that place without even knowing it. Maybe. I want to encourage you to dance. Dance your own dance. Find your own sacred place, particularly on the solstices. June 21st coming up, World Peace and Prayer Day. Dr. Arvel Lookinghorse called for this 9 years ago. Has been doing it every June 21st, every year. His request is that you go to your sacred place, a place that means something to you. And you put up there in that place, on that day, the high day of the sun, the strongest day on the planet, that you put up your prayers for peace, for world peace, and that you have a little prayer there. Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe you don't see it as prayer. Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's a thought process. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's to sing. Maybe it's to dance. Maybe it's to draw a picture in the sand. Maybe it's to carve an effigy and put it on top of a rock. Whatever it is, that it means something to you in that place, because the place itself will affect you. How many of you, when you walked into this longhouse today, felt affected by the presence of the building itself? It isn't because it's just the building itself, it's because you walk into the spirit of the place itself that began on the day that we began to deliberate about where we'd put it. I was on the Longhouse Committee. This place is a culmination of one of my dreams, along with my brother, to see this established here. And the strength that it shows. Look at the strength right above you. They gave up their life. I'm thankful to them. And I have a great respect for them that they gave up their lives for us to have this house, to have this place. And it's a reminder that even this place has a steward. Our creation stories contain not only the origin of our being in our creation, they contain our instructions about being good caretakers, good stewards. Every tribe that I've studied in the United States, and I've been at this a really long time, and in Canada, they all have that concept. It's exactly the same. There's a reciprocity to be done with self and everything else that lives. So, I ask you to dance. I give thanks for being here. I thank you very much for listening to me today. I hope that in some way perhaps my words provide inspiration. I hope that they provide encouragement, but I also hope that they in some way provide hope. Because if we don't have hope for the future, if we can't remain positive and optimistic, then I fear that we're done. So, may the Creator bless us each and every one until we come together again. And thank you very, very much for your time.